All right, so CAD to Cars, episode 4. Here we are in Kev's brand new pole barn. Kev, tell us a little bit about it.
So last year, end of the year-ish, I finally had saved up enough money after selling my B5 and saving up for, I don't know, a year and a half, 2 years probably. Just not buying any new project cars, trying to really keep low on the hobbies just to try to save up enough to get this thing built. Put up a 30 by 40 pole barn in the backyard. Right now it's pretty empty, pretty echoey in here. I'm still working on finishing out the interior. We have some electrical lines ran, ceiling panels up, a lot of LEDs. So I'm pretty much just taking the opposite approach that we talked about last time, where Mike's garage is everything's jammed in there and super tight, and I decided to spend my money on having the space and kind of opening things up.
Yeah, you've had the patience to put aside your hobbies
Right.
to get this done, versus I've had no patience for that whatsoever.
Yeah. So I still have all my tools in my standard 2-car garage that's in the house or attached to the house. But that'll eventually transition into just car storage and a clean space versus out here to have the projects and all the tools and everything. So it's been a journey so far, just working with contractors to get the building up and like doing the concrete and everything. But honestly, whole frame construction is pretty affordable. So you can get a lot of space for not really that much money when you look at like housing costs and things like that. So I'm pretty happy with it. I got a place to store my tiny 4-wheeler collection and lawn mowers and stuff for now. A couple weeks ago, I just put in a lift. So that was kind of like the big hurdle that really made it feel like I was making a step towards having a garage where I could work on stuff. So having a 2-post lift has kind of been a long time dream coming, I guess, having your own workshop with a real setup here. But
Yeah. A lift you don't have to be off of by the next day or whatever.
Right.
It's a big deal.
I mean, there's still a ton of work to do. And
That's the nice thing about it. I guess you get over that initial investment, you get the structure up, and then you can kind of slow down again and kind of,
Pick away at things.
Yeah.
Do it at your leisure.
yep, we're getting there.
So, did you design it?
Yeah, you basically contact these places that make kits, and you say you want windows here, you want garage doors here, you want this insulated, whatever, you want this roof pitch, this total height, and then you just kind of have, basically what happened was an 18-wheeler showed up, which was one of the most stressful moments of my life because I directed traffic for about 2 hours on this pretty busy road out there. Well, this guy was unloading the kit with trusses and all the side panels and everything like that. So, you customize the kit, and there's place I got it was DIY pole barns. So basically, they'll just cater to what you want, drop it off, and then you can either build it yourself or have someone build it if they work with contractors, whatever. I chose to work with a contractor because it's just too much work for me to handle by myself. So
I mean, you did the pretty engineer thing to do and like pretty much modeled everything, floor plan, all that. Like you submitted the plans to the township or whatever?
yeah, so I'm trying to poke in where I can to save money. I'm not having anyone go pull permits for me. I'm pulling the permits myself. So I did all like the prep work and things like running the electrical to the house. I dug the trench, and now I'm finishing the interior. So I'm framing out the walls. I put up the ceiling panels. I'm going to do the insulation and all the rest of the stuff that is, helps me save some money, but also like doesn't make this a 5-year project. So I plan on having a pretty functional garage within 6 months-ish of the start date is the plan. So.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
And so you built this to store your cars, and you also have these minis out here. Let's talk about those. Those are pretty awesome. What do you have? A Yamaha, 2 Yamahas, and a Honda 3-wheeler?
Well, I have 2 Yamahas. One's in the house right now being completely stripped down and built up with a like high compression piston that we decided to like weld, and I ported the head and everything, went crazy on it. So basically we have these just like tiny ATVs. So it's way more fun to ride the limit of something that's small and just be flat out the whole time than it is to ride something bigger that, you know, in a backyard setting, you can't really have as much fun with. It'd be great if we went to like, what is it, West Virginia or whatever. They have tons of trails, open space, cool. Bring your 450s there, all the
Even
fun
still,
stuff.
definitely kill yourself. So
Right.
Yeah, Wayne
So-
National Forest is a good one. They have
Backyard
Hundred
activities. We have some trails out back here. We call my house now Brapplebee's. So we do the brapping here. My collection currently is an ATC 70, so one of the old three-wheelers, 70 cc's, tiny old classic that I haven't touched. It's pretty original. And then I have two Moto 4 80 cc quads. And then Will and Mike also have participated in the Brapplebee's collection.
Oh, for
They
sure.
both have a pretty expansive collection at this point, I guess.
It's the perfect thing for like an office full of car dudes.
They're
that you
so
go on
cheap.
the Craigslist like search, and then you pass it around the room, and before you know it, everyone in the office has two.
Yeah.
So we have 6 engineers, right?
we talked about this briefly, like episode 1. We're talking
Yeah.
about how bad it is that we have just like a group chat and like access to like Craigslist and Facebook Marketplace and everything. It's bad.
Yes, our goal is to get the other person, anyone else in the room, to buy the object.
We have 6 engineers. Only 5 of us participate because Shane doesn't.
Yeah, Shane
It's fine.
hasn't.
But
jumped to-
we have
yet.
at least 12 of these between all of us.
really.
Everyone has at least 2, right?
Mhm.
Charlie has 2,
I have 3. You have 3, 4?
3, 4 with the dirt bike. Yeah.
Right. So we also dabble with the dirt bikes. So it, Will has what, 2 quads? No, he had 2
I
quads.
had
He
to.
has-
Sold one to Corey. Got
Now
it.
you've
quad?
got 2, 3, and 4 wheel options. Is what you're
Yes, I have all the options: a 2, a 3, and a 4.
Yeah.
All right, so let's go around and tell us exactly what you have. So, Will, let's go with you.
So I also have an 80cc Moto 4. Mine's a little different than Mike and Kevin's. It's like a newer one. They didn't change much, but they added suspension to the newer ones. I'd like to also pick up a suspension-less one at some point. So I actually had 2 of the identical ones of the suspension versions. They call the Badger. And then I sold one to a coworker. And then my plan is to pick up another Moto 4 that has no suspension, because those are also a lot of fun.
And they're faster.
And
Yeah, they are.
yeah,
They have an
that's
extra
somehow
gear in the
faster. Yeah,
trans.
all the extra gear. That's right. Yeah, that's been a problem recently. But I had that. I have a ATC 90 that's kind of been the project recently, more specifically over the winter, I guess, which is nearing completion. I just need to build a seat for it, and I think it's ready to rip. And then a XR80. So.
XRs are awesome. I'm a big
Yeah.
fan of those. But you bought a scooter recently.
Oh,
You want to talk about that a
yeah,
little bit?
boy.
Yeah, that's the next, so it started, I guess, like all of these start. When I moved here, Kevin had the YZ80.
Yeah.
So
And
it turned-
before you started here, there was engineers that previously worked at ECS. We all picked up 80cc 2-stroke dirt bikes.
Right.
And I
about
guess
that.
that's kind of really where it started. We just decided to go riding at some point. We're like, yeah, we want to buy these cheap little dirt bikes that are pretty fun. And then we realized that it's a little too much for the yard.
Yeah, you had just moved here,
Yeah.
and it was like the first couple times here, we tried ripping it around. Like, you feel like an asshole because it's a loud 2-stroke. You have to ride it like topped out on the pipe to have any fun. So you feel really bad about neighbors. So then we started hopping into the 4-strokes. It started, I think I got my 4-wheeler. No, you got the KLX first.
Yeah, KLX 110.
KLX 110. Traded the 2-stroke for it. Then we went into, I got the first 4-wheeler.
Yeah.
The YFM 80.
Yep.
And then
Then everyone wanted
that
one
wave,
from there.
yeah, it turns out those are really fun. I was just
One
on
of
a
those
whim.
things like you bring it over and you're go ahead, ride it, and everybody rides it, and you're like, wow, this is the greatest thing in the world. And then, so yeah, 2 minutes later,
Before you
you're on
know it, they're
Craigslist.
cleared out on Craigslist. Everyone in the office bought everything.
Yeah, dollars per smile is like very high on the ratio.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that led into 3-wheelers was the next acquisition because we've ridden dirt bikes a bunch. But we're like, oh, the tiny 4-wheeler was a ton of fun. Maybe the tiny 3-wheelers are also a ton of fun, but everyone died in the 80s on those. So we started trying to find those, which unfortunately they're pretty collectible.
Yeah.
Now,
If you want
Most of those
like a
are-
Honda or something like that, big money.
The 70s especially are big money.
Yeah.
But you can find the deals.
You can
And
find a deal.
Like I paid $400 for mine, and it's pretty original.
Yeah.
And the thing's solid. If I want to go sell it, I could probably get $800 out of it.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So that's, I guess, kind of also part of the reason we end up with all this stuff. Is we're occasionally just take a break from work, browse around what's on Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace, things like that, and then you're like, ooh, look, hey, I already have one of these, but you should buy this because it's cheap and it's a good deal.
Yeah. Remember how much fun you had last time you rode this thing? You should buy one too.
We have like so much familiarity with these things now too. Like Facebook like recommends it to you, even if you're not looking. It just like pops up in your timeline
right.
now, and like
so dangerous.
and then you can't let a good deal go to waste either.
No.
So you're like, I don't even need one, but this is a screaming deal. We gotta go get it. So,
All right.
Speaking of which, I saw a $1,200 924 turbo for sale.
Ooh, that's a good deal.
Yeah,
I don't
it's probably
want
gone
another one.
already, but I
I
know.
don't want another one of those.
So dirt bikes, 3-wheelers. Now we're into 3-wheelers, 4-wheelers, and so the next step is scooters. And
Yeah,
you
then-
just bought a Helix.
Yeah, Honda Helix. I don't really know how that one started either. It was just
also in the office looking around for anything weird. It's the
Yeah.
same stuff
Right.
we're into with cars. It's like, what's the weirdest thing? Like that's why the old tiny 4-wheelers look cool because they're square, like nose and everything, so they look funny.
And if you haven't seen a Honda Helix, it's the most 80s
Yeah.
looking, ridiculous 250 4-stroke scooter with a giant windshield and
It's
a
a cross
radio
between like
that's-
a tiny personal spaceship looking thing, a scooter, and
a
like
vacuum cleaner.
yeah.
yeah, it definitely looks like it should make the like the Jetsons
Yeah.
noise, the little flying
What's-
car things.
Someone said it looks like it wants to be a jet ski.
Oh yeah,
That was like
I
the
saw that
perfect
one too.
analogy
That's
for it.
very accurate.
You can also find it in a Fat Joe video, I believe.
Oh yeah, it
yes.
is.
Right?
That
Oh,
is true.
cool.
What song was that?
Oh man, I can't remember off the top of my head, but pretty funny. Fat Joe was riding a Honda Helix in his music video, and I'm like, oh
Throwing
my
money
god.
around.
Yeah, like around Miami or something like that. I
Yes.
think I
Did you
know
see
that
it?
one. Yeah.
Oh my
I
god,
can't think of the name though.
Yeah, so that was the initial draw to it, is that they look ridiculous
Mhm.
and awesome and weird. And then we started looking into them, and it's a 250cc liquid cooled 4-stroke, and it's designed to do like 70, 75 flat out for its entire life.
Yeah. Over-engineered,
For a
like
scooter.
it's just
Yeah.
ready to rip for forever, and it looks like you're riding a lazy boy. Like it looks like the most comfortable thing in the world, and like something. I mean, prior to this, like I had never actually ridden a scooter or anything like feet forward, not even a Harley or anything like that. So like the whole feet forward concept was like also kind of appealing. Like I'm like that seems kind of nice,
Right.
so, and so we'd been browsing around. Like nobody wants to pay top dollar for one of these.
No,
Nobody's
yeah.
looking for a minty factory perfect one from 85 or anything like
I don't
that.
think
So
we're ever looking for that.
no,
There
well,
is a-
that's my point.
We're always
is that,
looking for the deal.
Looking for the deal, a little bit of fixer
That's-
upper.
That's part of the appeal as well. It's
Yeah.
the deal hunt, and then like the haggling when you go to buy one. But
Yeah. So
you
yeah,
were
I mean,
first to bite the bullet, and like you really started the trend.
I did. I was like, I really thinking like this could be a thing. Like we should take these and go like on a long road trip, like
Yeah.
cross country. Hopefully, I
like
mean,
the scooter cannonball run.
dude,
Yeah, the scooter cannonball run is
Which
the
is-
end goal.
Already a thing.
Right.
apparently it's a thing.
Huh.
We thought we were pioneers on this idea, taking Honda Helixes across the country, but there's actually a scooter cannonball.
There's other weirdos just like us.
Yeah, so kind of hard to believe.
So you said it's over-engineered. I know it has a radio. You had it out at the shop and got a pretty banging radio. What
That's
else?
actually a pretty rare option, mind you.
Oh.
So,
What other things make it, over-engineered?
I mean, it's a
Well-
scooter that does 75 miles
That's
an
true.
hour. Like,
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
designed to do 75 forever.
right. So, I mean, it's made by Honda. Really, I mean, you don't even have to say that anything's particularly over-engineered. Like Honda, they just always made good stuff, especially in that time period.
Yes.
The ATCs and everything speak to that. But in terms of like over-engineered, I mean, just it's simple, I guess.
yeah,
It's-
look at the date ranges that they made the same
They-
thing for.
The thing went unchanged from 86 to 2007.
Right. And
Like,
like
wow.
they had it 2 years before that, and they changed very minor stuff.
Oh yeah, I think it went from steel to aluminum wheels,
Right.
and
Which are cross compatible. You just need the hub.
and I think a couple like CDI ignition related things. So pretty minor, but like mechanically, completely the same for like, 20 years.
Yeah.
Like
you can
that's
find
insane.
these things with like 40,000 miles on it. who's riding a scooter 40,000 miles?
You figure, I mean, most people are riding around like gated communities and like
Yeah.
to and from
Yeah.
the golf course and things like
Beaches.
that. I mean, people are putting miles on these things. So,
Yeah, these
I mean,
have
it's
like
pretty
a-
impressive.
They're like a weird cult hit where people like seek these out and ride them everywhere.
I guess-
it's very strange.
To that point, it also kind of speaks on our ATVs and stuff because so the 3-wheeler I have is from 1978, something like that.
Well, yeah, yours is newer than that. Yours is an 84, but they
84.
did 78 to 86, and that's when they put the ban in place, I think.
Okay.
Where right around like the mid to late 80s is when
And then,
everyone was crashing and dying on them, so they stopped making 3-wheelers.
but the Moto 4 is also like a 1989, I think.
And they still make it as the Raptor
Right.
80. It
And-
is still the same parts.
Same motors,
Ah, okay.
same everything.
They've got their money's worth out of the
Yeah,
engine.
what did they do?
Huh.
They changed the name and then they added the suspension later.
Well, yeah, it's
Like-
the same frame as yours. They
Right.
changed the brackets for the plastics. So, like, they did the update from Kevin and I's non-suspension version, which is on the left here, to the one on the right, which is the suspension version. But like, the motor is interchangeable, like, and then the
Oh,
suspension
the rear
version
end.
is the same.
That was a weak link.
The rear end on the early ones is a weak link, but yeah,
It just goes
Strange.
to talk, speaks, about what kind of engineering they were doing back in the 70s and 80s, and like, back they keep running it until
that's all the Japanese
2000.
bikes from
Yeah.
the 70s and 80s were trying to beat out the American stuff. So they over-engineered them a little bit so they'd be bulletproof comparatively. So then they kind of flooded the market. And they're like, oh, these things don't break. You can just keep riding them. So
I mean, who knows what kind of lives these things lived before us? And
None of them
meanwhile,
break.
we're out here just like tapped out, like throttle pegged for hours.
full-size
Like,
adults.
full-size
Yeah,
adults pinned through the woods, like bumping into each other, bumping trees,
like
jumping them, like.
So that's some torture testing for sure.
And they've
still,
all been hurt bad. I don't know about like if you look at any of these things we bought, because we're not buying the top dollar minty one.
Right.
I know if you flip mine like on its tail, you'll look and see the front of the frame is super tweaked on one side because some little kid must have ate something very stationary, like third gear into a tree or something.
Yeah.
So such a robust design that there have been China replicas, which is the
Right.
Helix that you ended up with, Mike.
Yes, I just recently joined the Helix
Ah.
Club, but I have the very China version.
It's not a gang yet, we decided. We're waiting
No.
on Kevin. It can't
Yeah.
be a gang with two,
No,
but we
need
will have a
third.
gang.
Yeah,
It looks exactly the same.
parts
with-
are interchangeable.
Yep.
Right.
It is definitely shittier. Like there's definite things that like you can pinpoint when you look at like one next to the other. Like, ooh, that's not made as nice.
It's hard to believe there wasn't like some copyright
They had to.
lawsuit or something
Yeah.
about it because it's that similar.
Right.
Like they changed like the front grille for the radiator. And
Yeah,
that
they
was-
changed the
that
grill
was-
and everything else is the same.
Yeah.
It just doesn't fit as nice.
Is it called a Helix?
No.
No,
Oh,
mine was
okay.
the Q-Link commuter.
Ah.
Commuter. Q-Link
Commuter.
commuter. I think made by CF Moto.
I think there's a couple other ones too.
Yeah, it is the CF.
It's a CF Moto. And, which is funny because
Yeah,
a lot of
there's
the
the Fusion as well. That's the other version.
Fusion and Spazio is what they're called overseas or whatever. They were
Right.
never called that in the United States, but
There was a yellow one I found a while ago.
I think it was also a Q-Link.
It had some kind of other badge on it, and it was like sunshine or something. Maybe
Yeah.
a special edition
That's-
China. You
that's
get it in
extra
yellow.
China or like Taiwanese
Yeah,
or something
yeah.
maybe.
Dragon
So I
Dragon
don't
or
know. I'm
something.
still on the hunt. Will spent what, $800?
Yeah, that's honestly more than I really wanted to, and I probably
Me too.
more than I should have paid for that one in particular. But I just, like Mike said, I needed to bite the bullet, and I also the only stipulation in talking Matt with his truck to go down and get it with me. He told me, he's like, "I'll go with you, but you have to buy it. I don't care what negotiating you do, but be
Yeah.
willing. You have to bring asking price with you. We are purchasing this." And so we drove what was about an hour away, and I was able to haggle a little bit, but you
So-
know,
That's the cost of being the trendsetter.
But
there.
you
Bite
also
the bullet first.
ended up with a genuine Honda piece.
it's a genuine
so
Honda.
Yeah,
it's worth more. And
Yes, it
Mike
is worth
paid
more.
$200.
I paid $200 for one that didn't run, and, like hadn't ran in 2 or 3 years. The signs were good as far as like I don't care that it doesn't run, but that's off-putting to most people. Right, that thing's been sitting that long.
So they're simple machines. I mean,
They're
that's
very
not a big deal.
Yeah. But yeah, so I bought the $200 one. I've probably put $200 in it since, and I've ridden it once. once, and it's still in a million pieces. So that's the difficult thing. The other trouble with this is, as it turns out, another niche market of the Helix is in Japan. There's a bunch of guys, they call it the Helix Gang on Instagram. You can look. There's a bunch of slammed Helixes.
Oh boy.
And the trouble is, I saw some of these.
Oh, they
shit.
look so good.
I need this. So I had never ridden it because it needed like an intake boot when I bought it. So I immediately blew it apart and was waiting for parts. Then I ordered shocks and like lowered it, and I've already most certainly ruined it without ever really riding it anywhere. But it's going to look cooler.
You know what Will's ride's like, so you basically know what it's going to ride
Yeah,
like.
we'll be able to do the side by side, and that's oh boy. So
Yours is going to be faster, I feel like.
long
Just
story
the China-
short, but I had to pull the motor out of it, so I had the motor out yesterday, and I feel like this is a really good time to cut the frame and weld my tabs on it too. But I'm kind of anxious to get yours together first, just to have the baseline, and then see how low can we go and still be sort of functional, and kind of set up.
I can tell you, I already had to remove the center stand, and then the nubs for the center stand hit the earth pretty often.
Oh.
So I need to cut those off.
You could go the ultimate route of functionality, like the guy on that Honda Helix Facebook group did, and bag it.
Yeah, so that's the other trouble. Bagging it is very appealing.
Boy, I just want to make the noise.
I've already committed to the static, so I'm going to try to go the static route.
Living the low life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm trying to go as low as I can static without having to cut into the trunk. That's the other option. Because these have a pretty big caboose on them. You can fit a lot of stuff in there, but it's
Very
like a
nice.
sealed plastic thing.
I think I brought 2 6-packs over, and then like also fit this mic stand in it and a couple other things in there the other day,
With
and it
room to
was
spare.
fantastic.
Comfortably fits a large pizza.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
A couple gallons
Wow.
of milk, even like
That's
it's pretty sick.
that's something.
The
Never
functionality
like,
is
Because
very
I mean, I also have my like street bike and everything, and it was always such like a pain in the ass. I love riding it everywhere, especially when it was nice. But like you have to bring like a backpack or something like that. You ride around with stuff on your back, and
everything in the backpack's always super pokey.
So
That's the other
pokey.
trouble.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
That's crazy. Kev, have you found any potentials yet?
No, I'm
Haven't even been looking.
He's
really?
trying to
I'm
play
not.
that game where he's trying to still work on the pole barn.
Yeah.
Be responsible.
we're gonna get him.
I-
though.
I-
I'm gonna find a
we're-
good deal.
yeah, we're
and
gonna
he's
get
gonna,
it.
he's gonna get it.
Yeah, I haven't seen any good. I'm not paying $800. I'm just
Yeah.
not doing that. If it comes up like sub 500, I'm interested. But beyond that, I'm gonna hold out on this one because
You were also staying away from the China ones for a bit
uh
because you found that $200 yellow one.
yeah, but it was like 6 hours away.
Oh, that's true. Okay.
So
That's
add a bunch of money and diesel.
And you
to
would have
get there.
been the pioneer. That would have been the first one too. So
Right. I wouldn't
Yeah.
want to be. I don't know if I want to be the first China one. Because
yeah,
then I'd
after
just be
seeing
that guy.
Mike's, I think it's definitely safe.
At $200
It's
bucks,
Yeah.
you can't not do it. So
Yeah, I'm certainly never going to pay $800 for the China one.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, for the China one, no.
No,
way.
but yours that was a reasonable deal.
Yeah.
Because these seem to go for like $1,200 to $1,500 all day.
Yeah.
I don't really know why. That seems like way too much.
well,
Wow.
I mean, it could be a 2007 or it could be like a 1980. So
Yeah,
There's
who
no
knows?
difference.
You would know.
Yeah, that range.
So you said yours wasn't running. What did you have to do to get it running?
It turned out to be a torn intake boot between the carb and the cylinder head. So that was like $15. And it had some mouse stuff going on because it was sitting for a while. So they ate the air filter and a couple wires. So I kind of pulled that apart, cleaned it up. Will and I immediately just kind of I had my bottle of acetone nearby with no carb on it, just sprayed it in there and cranked it over to see that it fired. And it did make noise. Okay, it's not blown up, so whatever.
Yeah,
Kind of
free.
it's
tore it
incredible
apart.
how fast people give up because
Yeah.
you can find some stuff and it's just like, oh, okay, yeah, this thing looks really broken. You better give me a bunch of money off on it and then
Right.
go clean the carb and things great. That's how I picked up that 3-wheeler for $400.
Exactly.
Because the carb had been sitting for so long, it's just filled with white, crusty crap. I cleaned out that, not even that well, and it ran fine.
Yeah.
Boom, good to go.
Yeah, people are afraid to be a little handy and hands-on with this stuff. That's definitely fading away.
Oh yeah, carburetors are scary now. People just don't. Which
Carburetors are
respectively,
magic.
everybody would think the carburetor what do you call them? The aficionados. They'd be like they're scared of EFI stuff. They're like, this is the most terrifying thing in the world. Why would you want all these electronics messing with your stuff? So yeah, I mean, if you understand like basic mechanical functions,
I mean,
carburetors are pretty great.
yeah, until until you start talking about like cars when they started rolling in emission stuff.
Well,
Yeah,
okay, yeah, that's a little
two
bit
wheels.
That's a little different.
Or single cylinder are the only things that I'm okay with carburetors on.
Right.
Everything else
Agreed,
needs
yeah.
to have VFI. I don't give a shit. Like, that's it.
Yeah. Yeah, I
No
agree.
way.
I agree.
Will, did you have to do anything to yours to get it running, or it ran when you?
No,
you
man,
got
that
it?
was the test drive when we went down there. Was like the first time riding it. Fired right up pretty good. I mean, it needed a couple things, but nothing real major. So yeah, it had been like laid down. The guy spray painted it, stuff like that. So that's why it was like on the lower end of the spectrum in terms of like a running driving Helix, running riding. Yeah, no. Pretty much everything was there, so it definitely needs some work. The plastics are kind of messed up, so I'm going through trying to replace a few things. But
It also has like a hot. Did you fix that yet? The hot running kind
hot's
of.
money. I'm
Okay.
still working on the cold start situation, so I haven't quite figured
I
that
have a
out.
similar but different issue.
Yeah.
My cold start is goofy, but in a completely different way than yours.
What did you know that the starter on those, it doesn't have a solenoid on it, and it has a clutch for on the crank,
Oh yeah,
like
that's
a one-way
how- that's how
one-way
these are.
clutch drive.
Yeah.
Pretty
That's how the tiny things are too. But yeah,
kind of wild, and I'm wondering if that is
because mine makes
part of
noise.
it. Yeah, it's
It makes a whine like dead starter noise,
no. Okay.
but it still starts. So
Yeah,
until
it starts
doesn't-
eventually. So.
Yeah, until it doesn't, whatever.
I did recently, as of like 2 days ago, add USB power and a cigarette lighter with a Bluetooth FM transmitter. And boy, we're gonna
boy.
be rocking out. We're gonna be rocking out on a road trip. I'll tell
And
you
really, the kind of end goal of this thing is to take the Honda Helixes to the tail of the dragon, right?
Right. We
Yeah.
have a trip planned with
I think.
all the two-wheeled things.
Yeah.
In September, hopefully that's not still quarantined.
Yeah, it's funny
but-
because we went with, I can't remember if we touched on this when we talked about Winter Beater and all that, but we went Tail of the Dragon there. And yeah, we decided that like Tail of the Dragon is like a ton of fun, but I think everybody has like a relatively fast car. And Kevin, you're going to bring the 135, I guess. But
Yeah.
Having been there, it was definitely more fun on two wheels, right?
My experience was terrifying in the Audi wagon. It was just not.
Yeah.
It was not fun. I promise you.
Yeah, my experience with the 944 was not great. But on the way back down to Oktoberfest, as Matt can attest to, we stopped by with the ECS cars. And I was like, ooh, okay, this is a complete game changer. This is good. But having ridden two-wheeled things just in that area while we were there for the Winter Beater, it was a lot more fun.
Yeah. So
So
we brought with us somehow we had the space for this. We brought a couple of ATVs of these ATVs with us, and
also Matt's S1000RR and then Corey's Japanese
Suzuki
Cruiser, whatever it was
Yeah,
at the time.
Something.
kind of brought a whole variety of stuff along with the winter beaters, but just driveways around there, just the driveway we stayed at was enough of a dirt, like road coursey type of path you could take these quads down, and then the street right down at the end of the driveway at this complex we were staying at had almost zero traffic on it, so we also took the quads on that.
Right.
And that
It
was
was
deemed
similar to
That
a
was on
small
the
section
Mexico
of the tail of the
border,
dragon.
though, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
right
definitely
outside
Mexico.
Mexico. We deemed it the toe of the dragon.
Yeah. Tail of the dragon.
So I
It
think
was-
that all kind of like comes back to like, slow things fast, like our, the appeal of the 80cc range, the quads, three wheelers and everything. And yeah, ideally bringing a Helix, something like you can actually kind of ride flat out down at the tail of the dragon.
Right.
Sounds awesome.
Yeah. Highly recommend. We also have something that happens every year at Mid-Ohio called Vintage Moto Days, where basically you have 3 days of racing going on between dirt bikes, old vintage bikes.
They
on
do
the
some
track.
enduro stuff through the woods. They have trials stuff way in
Right.
the woods. which
And
is really
this is the
cool.
one weekend they don't charge you to have a vehicle, like a golf cart or whatever. So everyone, pretty much.
It's an unbelievable. I guess it's the biggest vintage moto thing in the country, from what I understand.
There's swap meets,
the
there's
swap
shows,
meets enormous.
there's
There's
random stuff that happens at night. There's random pits of oval tracks, whatever,
Yep.
and the entire weekend's just filled with riding your ATVs, trikes, dirt bikes around.
legitimately probably 30,000 people on tiny things, hammered all weekend.
Wow.
Like,
It's
it's
impressive.
incredible that this is allowed to happen. and that you can go to it.
I've gone there twice now. The first year was great. It was super dry. Everything was good. We had a great time.
Oh
This last year was
Last year was rough.
raining every day, and it was just an absolute mud fest. But we still had a good time.
Yeah.
Camping there. You buy a camping pass for what, $70 or something like that, and then you can just ride around all day and just pretty much the entire weekend. If you don't stop, you'll still have a hard time seeing everything.
Yeah. It's
That sounds
enormous.
awesome.
It's just nonstop. So
Down in Mid-Ohio.
They have trails around, like, outside of the
yeah.
track?
So
Really?
we should do trails, which you wouldn't
Wow.
expect, but then
No.
as soon as you go through them all, like, I don't know. I've been 3 years now, and
There's so many things you can do with
So
these
much.
tiny, these tiny four-wheelers.
I was gonna say, Matt, you should come and we should do a podcast on location
Ooh.
in Mid Ohio.
I like that. When is it?
July.
July,
Okay.
the week after 4th of July, the weekend after.
Let's do
this
it.
year.
That'll be awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Going back to the Helix real quick, I just have a couple more questions because that really interests me. It's a cool bike. It goes up to 75. Have you gotten it to 75
So
on a straightaway?
that's okay. So if you're familiar with like go-karts and things like that, things with weird like
Or snowmobiles, yeah.
or snowmobiles, the drivetrain of those is a little bit different than your traditional dirt bike or motorcycle, and that it's like kind of like a CVT sort of.
It's a belt-driven CV style. They call it like a variator as well.
And so there's a lot of things that that play into effect in terms of like acceleration and top speed. Belts, if they stretch the width of them, they have rollers that push out the drive face, which changes your gear ratio. Like that's the CV portion of it. And so there's a lot of variation out there of what speeds people are able to attain. So I have hit 73 on mine. I hit 73 when I first got it, but that was on a downhill, and then did a little tune-up work, and then was able to hit 73 pretty comfortably on a level highway. So it'll do that. It seems to be a little more comfortable around like 65. 65 is definitely doable, like on an uphill and everything. So there's a few more little tweaks. I think if it can do 70 easily on a slight incline, that would be money. But yeah.
That would be great.
How does it handle at 73? Is it a lot of shaking, or is it
Well,
smooth?
okay, so I don't have a whole lot of experience with that yet either, but on the last time that I rode it down on the highway, it was an extremely windy day, and it was like trying to, steer a sailboat. Like, it was insane. It was blowing all over the place. And I mean, I've driven some big sketchy things, the U-Haul vans and the tornado kind of thing. Like, it was rowdy. But
Yeah, I did. I also took yours down one of the first times I rode it.
yeah,
Down the street at
that's
work,
right.
and then we were coming down the hill on Seville Road, and then you're covered in trees, and then you come down to the bottom, and it's open field.
Oh yeah.
So I hit the open field, and then before you know it, I'm leaned into the wind like 15 degrees, trying to stay straight on this road. It was just enough side surface area, and the thing's light enough where it made a huge difference. It was terrifying, but
I mean, it's totally manageable, but it was
Yeah.
a very interesting feeling.
if you're not ready for it, it'll definitely wake you up a bit.
So the fiance won't let me get not let me, but she doesn't want me to get a two-wheeled bike. She, death machines, all this stuff.
Oh, this is different.
But yeah,
This
I'm
is
thinking I
It's
can
a
get
scooter.
I can get a
Okay?
scooter, and she'll be
Yeah.
cool with that.
I don't know.
It's in the name.
Yeah, right. It's a
Yeah,
scooter. It's not a
it's a
motorcycle.
scooter.
It's not even a
Yeah.
dirt bike.
I don't know. I feel like she might be appalled by the appearance of it. While it draws us in, it definitely pushes others away.
Well, I won't make her ride it. She just needs to be like cool that I spend the money and
Okay.
like not yell at me every day for riding
You
it.
should just bring one home one day and just
See, that's what it
how
is.
it goes.
It is what it is.
See what kind of reaction you get.
Yeah, exactly. Well, cool. I'm gonna start looking because I'm into it now.
Yeah.
Dude, yeah.
To be fair, I have my reserves because of my previous experience
Oh,
with
yeah,
hitting a
that's
deer on a
Ooh.
motorcycle at 60 miles an hour and getting ejected off the seat immediately.
But while that did happen to you, it sounds terrifying. You got it out of the way. I mean, what are the odds that it's going to happen again?
I do know how to fall.
Yeah.
At this point, I know how to fall very well because of tiny ATVs.
Tiny ATVs. Well, and you grew up skateboarding as
Yeah,
well. It's like anyone who skateboarded or rode BMX or played with tiny dirt bikes and stuff, you eventually learn how to fall because you're going to. So that definitely helps a lot.
It's a good skill to have. So basically, I came out with just a hole in my elbow from scraping down the road, but being ejected off a bike at 60 miles an hour was not the best experience of my life, and I haven't had a motorcycle since then. That was almost 10 years ago now.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, they're definitely scary. There's some situations you can't avoid on those things.
Right, for sure.
It's tough.
Yeah, I struggle with that as well because I have a couple bikes. I enjoy riding them, but the modern inattentive driver is a big concern.
Better to avoid highways if you can.
Yeah, I kind of just leisurely ride. I'm definitely a fair weather rider. Like, it's not 70 degrees when I wake up, I'm not touching the thing. And then kind of back roads and peter around on old slow stuff so I don't die.
Yep.
But for sure.
Any crashes on the minis?
Oh, so many.
Oh, yeah? Okay.
So many.
Every time we get together.
That's the brilliance of them, is like, it weighs, what, I don't know, 150 pounds?
Yep.
Something
The
like
quads
that.
weigh 150, so the three-wheelers are lighter.
Yeah. So, like, yeah, you can come down the hill here, like, third gear buried or whatever, and, like, if you get out of sorts, you can put a foot down. As long as you don't put it under the thing, you're okay. If you're trying to ride wheelies across the yard, worst thing that happens is you roll it over yourself, and that doesn't really matter either.
No.
You're just not far from the ground, basically.
You're not far from the ground. Worst case, tapped out. I think I've had mine to 35 on the GPS on my phone. So
That's pretty
you're
good for a
not
mini.
going- It's pretty good.
Yeah.
It takes
But you're
a
not
minute
gonna-
to get there, but
it's not a death sentence where, like, on a big 450 through the woods you can hit 60. Like,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, it's terrifying.
Any thoughts on buying a big one? Like, this is cool, but I just have that drive to go faster and jump, or this is it. This is
That's
what
where
you want.
I grew up in kind of middle of nowhere, Connecticut, and we just rode dirt bikes all day. That was what we did, and we had miles and miles of trails that were state property. So there's very established large trails that a lot of people ride on, whereas out here we really don't have that. So I'm interested in a big thing for the right scenario.
yeah.
But
There's places around here you can go. It's not, like some areas is nothing. But I also grew up in a similar setting, kind of rural, always on bigger dirt bikes, and I definitely have a draw to it. Right now, this is more practical
Yeah.
and kind of gives you the same fun.
you can take a 10-minute ride down the street with your quad in the truck versus going to, I don't know, a couple hours south to find a ride park or whatever.
And you have to take it so much more seriously. That's
Yeah.
the other trouble. Like, here, you can crack a couple beers, ride wheelies on this, and then just hang out with your friends. Versus if you go to a ride park, you're there to ride a good amount that day. And you have to take your gear a lot more seriously because you're going a lot faster. It is a lot more dangerous.
So, how about side by sides? I've been thinking about those a lot, and
Yeah.
they seem like a lot of fun. A little restricted because you're in a cage, and it's like a mini off road truck.
They're kind of cheating, in my opinion.
They're
A
great,
little bit,
but
a
they're
little
also
bit.
like $1 million.
True, they're like 10 grand.
I'll never have
for-
one because
for
they're $1
more.
million, or until
Yeah.
you can find them for $400 broken in the middle of the woods.
I've
That's
spent-
when I'll buy one.
I spent
But,
some time driving one, and it's fun.
Yeah.
It's not, a bad time at all,
No.
by any means. But I go back to miles per dollar on what we have here, and really, the tiny quads are where it's at.
Yeah.
Yep. I've also driven a couple, and it's the same thing. Like, they're very capable, which is why everyone's super appealed to them. Like, it's an incredible opportunity to have something very capable you can take a lot of places.
And modify them quite a
And
bit.
you can modify them, or they're fairly reliable as is. So there's a lot of options there, but they're just too
Boy, they
expensive.
really seem like money pits. Like,
Oh,
boy,
yeah,
it's
for sure.
like their car, but maybe even worse. In terms of like
Off-road
what
stuff is the most expensive you will ever be into an automotive hobby.
Yeah,
So, like, and
kinda
I don't
like
almost
the-
don't want to like it. For that reason.
It's kind of like the bro dozer of like ATV stuff.
kind of, yeah. It's like a lot of people got out of off-road rigs. Like, you have like the JK guy and you have the side-by-side guy, and that's like the current off-road industry.
Sounds great if you live in like Utah or something.
Yeah, that
It'd be
too.
way more appealing if there was like the space in the backyard for it.
Yeah.
Something like
Yeah.
that. I would see myself buying one for sure.
It's still so expensive.
Everything's just a victim of circumstance, I guess.
So we were going to maybe talk about the science of drifting. We've spent 40 minutes on this subject, so I don't want to get into drifting because that's like a
we can save
3-day
that for next time.
3-day conversation.
Pretty different topic, I guess. Yeah.
True, yeah, and it's definitely a different topic. But do you guys? Maybe I asked this, I forget. But do any other minis on that you have your eye on?
Oh yes,
Oh, okay.
yeah, for sure.
What type of things are you looking at?
So the current holy grail we've all been looking for the past 6 months has been the snow scoot.
Oh boy.
Forgot about that.
Not familiar with that.
Yeah, the very few are. They didn't make them for very long. It's a Yamaha mini snowmobile. And unlike most of the other mini snowmobiles, this is capable of having an adult rider.
Mhm.
It has enough power.
Yeah.
They're
It's,
like
it's still meant for a kid, but
right.
they seem to like rip pretty good for an 80.
Right.
It's
Because
a
all the other
two-stroke.
tiny ones, like the Arctic Cat little guy and everything like that, the kitty cat or whatever,
Yeah.
like it just can't carry an adult, can barely carry a kid. These are pretty robust. They have suspension. Like it's a very cool chassis setup.
And it's tiny.
Unfortunately, yeah, it's tiny. Unfortunately, they only made it for like 4 years or
Yeah,
something.
maybe.
And everyone
three.
is aware, especially in this area, like near Michigan and stuff, where they're very cool and everyone knows it.
Mhm.
So
And people that seem to own them own 8 of them.
well, I can
It's
see
not even an
it's the same
exaggeration.
trap we're in. It's just
It's
not-
just those kind of people. I don't know, but yeah,
it's us. It's us, but with a little bit more money because it's the same reason we have a
A
bunch
lot
of
of
tiny
bit more money. Are
four-wheelers.
you kidding?
Yeah,
What was the
'cause-
cheapest one we've ever seen one for?
1,400.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And that
They
was
go
broken, like it needed a lot of
No,
work,
No,
or
that's
it was
running. You
oh,
can't
okay.
really
Broken
find them
one.
broken.
You don't see that as
Really?
much because these people that are collecting them pretty much know everything about them at this point.
Huh.
Yeah.
And I feel like snowmobile people are kind of a different breed.
Yeah,
Mm.
it's similar and related. There's a lot of crossovers, but it is
Mostly
different.
because of, I think, my opinion is because of the legality of being able to register your snowmobile, drive it to the gas station in northern Michigan.
Well, yeah.
whatever it
Typically,
is.
the place where you would want to own a snowmobile, you know how to fix your shit and things like that. So
yeah,
Yeah, good point.
yeah, that's
We
like
don't
a
even-
mode of transportation in the areas where
Right.
those are popular.
We haven't even got that much snow past few years.
No,
here.
it didn't make any sense.
Well,
But we're still on the lookout.
The big
but-
incentive when we started looking was because we had the trip to Snowdrift again
Yep.
coming up, and we're like, wow, this would be perfect if we could bring it up there. And then we were looking hard then, and of course it was like prime of winter, and there were actually a fair number out there. But yeah, cheapest one, $1,400, and they went
Yeah,
up
there's
to
a bunch of them for
25.
2,600 bucks.
Yeah.
Ooh.
I mean, they were minty.
They're
They-
out there for that, and they're in good shape. But there's no way.
But
I've
it's a
never
kid-
paid that for a car. I'm not paying that. For like,
the children's snowmobile. It's just not,
But yeah, it's like the holy grail. Probably will never end up with one just because they're so
No.
expensive.
I'm always
but-
going to keep an eye out for one,
Yeah.
and it's completely impractical. You could probably use it for like three outings during the winter. You'll have enough snow to even bother. But that is the ultimate tiny thing that we're.
That'll really
currently
complete the
looking for.
collection. You got like it's not even a single wheeler. It's like 1, 2,
Right.
3, and 4, and that's it. And you're just complete like this, like the.
I'd also like the Honda Cub. Have you seen those?
Okay, yeah, those are good.
That's another thing.
Oh, I want a big wheel, kind of like one
Ooh,
of
big wheel, the BW80.
the BW80.
Ooh,
That would be a good
yeah.
one.
All right, I'm into that too.
Those are also $1 million, but
Yes.
I always keep my eye
There's
out
a lot
for
of-
those.
I think we're drawn to 80s things for some reason. It's like the cool thing when we grew up somewhere deep down inside.
Yeah.
And
the price
they're-
point is right.
the price point's closer
Usually-
to where we can get into it.
You don't have to
but-
think much about making an investment. You know,
There's
It's
the
just kinda
hope
like, yeah,
that you can find one broken.
Right.
That
Oh,
someone
yeah.
doesn't know that they have. They just dug out of the shed. And you could be the first guy
estate
there. with
sales or
$100
whatever, just clearing out spring cleaning sort of stuff. But-
And well engineered, as you guys said. Those
Yeah,
are
that's an era where they
well-engineered
were
machines.
very well designed and kind of overbuilt for what they were in because they were trying to make their name in the States as a a reliable vehicle for that entry point. But
Cool.
there's a lot of tiny options like that.
Well, I'm gonna have to find one.
You do
Probably,
need one. I
probably a
think
Helix. I have a 4-wheeler. I have a 450R 4-wheeler
Well,
that kicks my ass, and so it's
you
not
need
really
to come
this,
over
but
for an outing on the tiny
Yeah.
four-wheeler.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly, definitely.
definitely.
And then maybe I'll downsize to that.
Yeah, you can buy like 4 of them for probably what you sell
Right,
that for.
exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for
And the Helix sounds good because I live like 10 minutes from work, so I can just hop on that thing, and
Perfect.
the fiance will be okay with it 'cause it's a scooter.
It'll
so.
pay for itself in a matter of weeks.
Totally.
you know.
Yeah. What's it cost to fill that up?
Well, it only
Right
holds,
now,
it only
especially.
holds 3 gallons.
Oh,
so
yeah.
All these
So
things are so
$5.
small they practically make gas while you're riding them.
Yeah.
You really you fill it up and then you're like, I don't remember the last time I put gas in this thing.
I know.
Really.
Yeah.
They
Like-
go forever.
And
It's
that's
amazing.
I've been riding my three-wheeler around at my house, just urban-wise, because we're on lockdown here, and it's been looking like it's out of gas for the first 3 times I've taken it out, and it's still fine. It hasn't given me any signs of dying. So
I guess that's kind of another part that's appealing about these is how little they cost to maintain
Right.
and run. You can get a YFM 80 Moto 4 top end rebuild, a piston, a cylinder, all
Yeah,
the
full
gaskets
gaskets.
you need, wrist pin, entire basic top end rebuild kit, everything you need for $39.99 on Amazon.
Right. You'll have
Even
it
more
in
of a
2
reason to
days.
buy a blown up one. You're like,
Just-
okay, worst case scenario, $40. Like,
Yeah.
it's
Right.
insane.
Part of the reason that I went ahead and was like, oh, all right, let's try this. Let's try to weld some material on top of this piston and grind it down. Maybe make a high compression, race quad 80cc while still staying within the spec class or whatever. Where we're not messing
that's
with
the next evolution. Once you've gotten everyone on board with entering into the tiny four-wheeler clan here, and everyone's got one, and we're all riding them around, the next thing is who has the fastest one. Like, it's
quickly-
a natural evolution to every form of
Yeah,
racing there's
for
ever
sure.
been.
quickly becomes a competition.
Yeah. So
So,
We're
I was gonna say, final question. I love two strokes. I love the smell. I love the sound. Do you guys have a preference? Two stroke, four stroke?
I would also prefer two strokes.
Yeah, I agree.
But you feel like a jerk in this type of setting
Sure.
where you're too close to other people.
Gotcha.
They're just different machines.
Yeah.
You can get an 80cc two-stroke, but it's kind of ripper at that point. Those motors produce a good amount of power. If you just want to putz around the yard and have torque at 0 miles per hour to do the slowest wheelies you can possibly do, a four-stroke's the way to go. It's always going to start. It's never going to have a problem.
Right.
Super easy to
To an extent. I mean, at the same
Put
time, we
gas in
talk
it.
about like the the over-engineered portion of it. Like they do require a little bit more maintenance. You got to care a little bit more.
yeah.
About a
Two-stroke?
yeah.
A little bit. That's definitely not what's putting me off.
No. I 100%. That would be my
Yeah.
vote too. I mean, like a 50cc two-stroke, something like that. I mean,
It's not appealing.
Yeah, you need the 80 or larger, but then they become, you can't be as relaxed on them because
Yeah.
they make twice the power of a four-stroke essentially for the same time period. So
And in urban settings, they're a nuisance and people
Yeah,
call the cops
they're
on you
loud.
and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like the sounds, but
I'd
to
like the
most
noise.
other people, to the
Right.
neighbors, not so
Yeah.
kind.
Yeah, for sure.
you can't be flat out on the thing in your yard for 3 hours straight.
Right.
It's just not gonna happen.
And I don't know if a 50cc two-stroke sounds that cool.
No.
Really,
No,
Yeah, the bigger
bigger
ones
The 80s
definitely sound way better.
It's
Yeah,
gotta
the
be
80s
an
are good.
at least to,
Yeah.
to be appealing. To go through the struggles of mixing gas and all that stuff. Not that it's that hard, really. It's just an extra gas can you got to keep around. Can't use the same one for the lawnmower, like I do. I put 93 in my lawnmower because I always want to have 93
why
for
not?
the, for the quads and stuff. I'm like,
Yeah,
well,
that's fair.
this is the only gas can I have right now, so I'm not gonna
Yeah, same
split
thing.
the difference on
To
that.
be fair, you're probably not losing any performance on the lawnmower that you would notice at least.
Yeah, probably getting like 12 miles a gallon, maybe at 2 miles an hour.
I figured you'd have a zero turnout here.
Oh boy,
There's-
oh boy.
There's priorities in life.
Okay,
and-
sure. Well, yeah, the building, a good zero turn can be 10 grand. $5, you get an
easily.
okay one
And
5,
my-
but like
my-
10.
$300 Craftsman
Yeah.
that's lasted me 4 years right now is doing the job just fine. Actually, I spent the other day going through it and actually fixing the brakes. So this is the first time I had brakes on the thing since I bought it, which is terrifying because I have a giant hill at back, and even with the brakes, it's going to be awful because the tires slip anyway and the thing goes out of control. But I mean, I really hate working on things like that.
When you have something that gets the job done, it's pretty low on the priority list.
Yeah,
I
it
guess,
does make
but
it a lot harder to try to upgrade.
Yeah.
But
If you didn't have a lawnmower at all at this point, I'd be looking a little bit harder.
yeah,
'Cause they
I'd
are
look for the
sweet.
blown up zero turn for sure.
Yeah.
I don't like working on lawnmowers. They're just
But if you can work on it once and then never have to touch it again, I'm fine with it.
Yeah.
It's constantly tinkering with it. That's annoying.
it's not a good time. It's the craftsmen's of that era of, I don't even know when that thing was probably made, early 90s maybe.
Yeah,
It's just a real hodgepodge of,
they try to make it
Hardware.
as cheap as possible.
oh yeah, you can tell.
I have a Cub Cadet, which I think is also Craftsman or something
MTD
like that.
is.
MTD, that's what it is. And it's a piece of junk. I've had to repair it almost every summer. It's steering, it's
They
the,
used to be
the
really
deck.
good.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah, they used to be.
good.
Yeah.
There's always something with them. Like my current mower has like a drift angle kit when you're turning left, but when you're turning right, it can't make a 100-foot radius turn.
Yeah.
So then you got to like work around that while you're trying to mow and stuff. It's a bad time overall.
And we're getting kind of off topic here, but zero turns are a lot more hydraulic. So like you have hydraulic lines
He's
instead
intrigued.
of belts and things like that. And I feel like the
Depends on what
hydraulic.
they are, but yeah.
Hydraulic
this
lines
was
are
my
easier.
first job was setting up zero turns in big equipment.
Oh, okay.
So I have too much experience with this.
To somehow like relate this to the original topic though, I've never had more problems than with mower engines. Like, and anything that I've owned.
I don't
they
agree with
seem
that.
to be the most problematic.
I've never had. I
The
don't
engine-
have that experience.
I've not touched the engine at all. It is
I've
a
had
Briggs
this-
and Stratton, and that.
Oh
thing-
no, I'm talking like either electronics. I've had like, I chased like a seat, switch around for a while. Stupid things like that. Like I've had mowers that just
Yeah.
constantly kill fuel filters and things like that. Brand new things, like really weird issues. But I just hate working on because I don't care. I'm just trying to mow the lawn.
Yeah, that's the struggle. So
There's just like motivation behind these. We're like, yeah, we're gonna get it back ripping because everybody's over and everybody's riding around. I gotta get my thing fixed, But like the mower, like you just
it's not. Trying to do household chores with it is not the same motivation.
no.
But so
Maybe that's more.
I
so
come
it.
from a group of friends back home where we are kind of tractor nerds. So you went to my buddy Alex's house.
Yep.
He's got a bunch of old wheel horses, and I can totally see that being an evolution for me at least. Like the tiny four wheeler, it's like old tractors.
That's totally
I have
different,
that.
though. Those are
inner
like
itch.
ag tractors though, like not
Yeah.
lawn mowers.
I agree, but like if you can pass it off as something like that,
Yeah,
that's
no,
fun
that's
again,
fair.
and
That's
then
fair.
use it like pretend that it's because you want to mow the lawn or whatever.
Yeah.
Then I can see myself getting into it.
hard to keep that functionality of having a thing that actually mows the lawn well.
Being cool. I don't know. I'm a nerd about it, and like if you can find me like a '60s wheel horse where like the motor was in the wrong spot and everything's cool looking and like
It's cool because you can pop wheelies on them.
yeah, you can do all sorts of stuff. Like they just look cool. I'm a nerd for old stuff.
Lawnmower racing's
So-
a thing. So
It is.
I have built a couple of those, or faster lawnmowers. That was like my first entrance into fabrication, and it's a dangerous game.
I tried and failed at that.
I got one to 65 miles an hour.
That's a ripper.
What
On
a-
ground or pavement?
Pavement.
Okay.
Yeah, it didn't have much power, but what a death trap.
Yeah.
yeah, no, I would not. I know how the steering is on mine.
Yeah, they make their ratio pretty quick on those. That's
Yeah.
minor adjustments at 60 is
Keep it straight.
pretty major.
Yeah.
or it has like 50 degrees
Or
of
that
like
to slop.
nothing.
Yeah.
It was good. I went through the whole thing. It was set up for it initially. It was my first, like when I first got my welder, it was the thing I got for free that I could cut up and try to
Welder?
make something cool out of.
Lawnmower.
Yeah. Let's see if we can make it faster. And I did. So that's a whole nother topic we can get into at some point.
Mowers, for sure.
You can
I'm into that.
I could
add
get
it to
it.
the list.
Yeah, I don't know that we need
We'll
to get
sit
it.
here and me and Kevin will drink, and then Mike will just talk about mowers and tractors and stuff. So
Yeah.
I'll listen.
Tractor nerd.
Tractors are
Closet
cool.
tractor nerd.
I got an old 8N sitting in my barn.
No shit.
Yeah. And
That's awesome.
it runs. It hasn't ran in a year, but it'll start up. Yeah, I dig it.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm. All right, guys, cool. Well, we hit our time limit, I think, and it was a great podcast. We'll wrap it up for today, and check us on the next one.
Yep.
All right, see ya.
Yep.